thought I would come to you today from my little reading area that I have sort of not abandoned for a while, but I haven't sat in here for a while and just chilled and relaxed. So I thought today, I did mention the other day on my last video that I had a book review to carry out, and I do, and I have the books here that I'm looking at today. But before we go on, I'll just give you a little look. My desk area a little bit more organised. This is the wooden reading platform I made myself, and I usually have it set up on here, but I thought, right, for today this is a working area for our book reviews. And then you can see my little altar. I'll just turn you round so you can have a look there, and it's all lit up in all its glory with the candles and all happy out. Oh, there we go. I think I've got that angle right. But yeah, I just thought I'd give you a quick little look around, and this is where I'm coming from this morning before I go on my bike ride a little later on. Hopefully I won't fall off today. So grab yourself a cuppa, come and sit down, and let's have a look at some books, shall we? The books that we're looking at today range from books for beginners to books for those who want to revisit tarot, those that might have fallen into a pattern where nothing new seems to be coming into their readings, and how to look at cards from a different angle, and so on and so forth. So let's get on and have a look. This book I have purchased for my son, and it definitely is for a beginner. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this for somebody who is either au fait with tarot or who is a seasoned reader, albeit it does say on here that you could, but I do feel this is definitely for your beginner. It is simple and straightforward, and especially if you have somebody who wants to read the cards that doesn't enjoy the act of actually physically reading a book because of you know, any form of difficulty with just sitting down and concentrating on something that could be deemed as a tome. Okay, so let's just see what it says on the back. This is Tarot. Unlock the power of tarot spreads and learn about psychic tarot card readings, symbolism, and developing your intuition. And this is by Silva. Have you always wanted to predict your future or figure out someone else's path in life? Do you want to know where your love life may lead? Perhaps you want to know what your financial future will be. If you answered yes, then you have found the right book to answer these questions and more. While the practice of tarot card reading has been used to understand or predict people's futures for hundreds of years, it's only become mainstream recently, and it is part of the New Age religion. It's a popular practice when you're trying to determine the characteristics and traits of the people for whom you are doing a reading. If you are a beginner, this is the perfect book to guide you on your journey. This book has all the basic information you will need for tarot reading, including step-by-step instructions in an easy-to-understand format. This book teaches you how to interpret every card in the tarot deck to help you do your first reading today. In this book you will explore the significance of each card and how to interpret its meaning, learn how you can develop your intuition more thoroughly, discover the meaning of the major and minor arcana, become a pro at doing accurate readings for yourself and others, find detailed explanations and descriptions for each card, discover how to deepen your understanding of tarot and interpreting the spreads, and much more. If you are eager to perform a reading on yourself or others, then now is your chance. You can gain insight into the past, present and future through this amazing deck of cards. Get a copy of this book now and start your journey into the uncharted waters of tarot card reading. Now, a lot of claims have been made on the back here, and for those claims I would expect a book that would be an awful lot thicker than this. This does touch on subjects but wouldn't necessarily go in depth. Let's have a look. There's an introduction here, and yeah, we do have a contents page. Chapter 1, how to read the cards. the root of the meaning, tarot card instructions, selecting a deck, modern or traditional, 4 ways to shuffle tarot, tarot card spreads, and how to interpret reversed cards. And all that is done in a space of 12 pages. Okay. Chapter 2, Developing Intuition. There is a huge amount that might be touched on, but not something that I would say that just reading this book, if you were to read this book in a day, that at the end of the day that you would be giving professional standard tarot readings. I think that's a little bit misleading. Right, chapter 1, how to read the cards, the root of the meaning. Now, everybody will be drawn to their own deck of cards, and that's fine. Personally, my own, and this is purely my own opinion, is that a learning deck I think is great if you're starting off with an RWS deck. You could start off with a classic RWS deck or something like the Everyday Witch Tarot, something that you're drawn to, that is pictorial, that is fun, and that can enhance your intuitive understanding and lead you down that path of intuitive reading. So if you're choosing a card, choose the right fit. Every tarot deck comes in different sizes. Always choose the right size for your reading sessions. Well, how do you know what is the right size for your reading session? It's all going to be trial and error. Size, I think far too much has been emphasised on size here. Unless you are totally avert to using mini decks or jumbo size decks, then to me it's much of a muchness. This book is okay for beginners. It is nice. So let's look at strength, for instance. Upright, key meanings. You've got a set of keywords, and you've got general interpretation. Romance, profession, health, spirituality. Reverse position, general interpretation, romance, profession. And I also think when we're looking at things like this, we have to be aware of wording. So this is something that my son will be using to work through for a very, very basic understanding. It is a step up from the little white book, but it's not something that would have you reading cards like a pro at the end of it. It would give you basic understanding. It only touches on using your intuition. There are so many paths when you go down tarot that to try and lay claim to being able to cover all of them in this little book, it's not. It can be a little bit misleading, but it's something that somebody who is going to guide you properly will say, well, yes, this is nice just to give you a taster, and once you're into it, once you have decided this is for me, then go down the route of buying you more expensive books, buying you more in-depth books, looking at books from the likes of Mary K. Greer or other authors who are well known within the tarot community. Okay. Then we have another book that we have then is 90 Days to Learning the Tarot. Now this book, again, it has a lovely set out. It really is beautiful in the set out. It uses a Ciro Marchetti deck that's used as examples throughout it, and I love his decks. It's a book written by Lorri Gifford, and it's called 90 Days to Learning the Tarot. No memorization required. Now this sets out with a time frame, okay? And again, after 90 days, 3 months, you will be becoming a little more proficient. I have been involved in tarot for many, many years, but only on a deep level for the last 5 or 6 years. I started reading when I was 18 and I'm 54 now. And I don't know everything. And I think anybody that professes to know everything about tarot well, then we'd have to sort of say, well, is that true or is that ego? Do you really think you do? Because tarot is a lifelong learning process. There's always something new to be found. New creators of decks always add their own little twist to something, which gives you that little bit more to add to a reading, or that little bit more, we say, well, look at it from another angle. You know, it really is. It's really like going down a rabbit hole and getting lost, starting out here in Ireland and ending up in Australia, you know. And there are so many different tarot decks that all bring their own unique way of reading and interpretation. Yes, granted, the base meaning is, you know, similar. And I'm talking tarot, not oracle or angel cards. And it's what else is added, what other symbols have been used, what colours have been used, what numbers have been used, how you read cards that are alongside it, above it, diagonally, the whole shooting match. And this is covered in many of these books today. So let's look at Lorri's book. Now, I did start off using this with a group of ladies, or a group of people, sorry, on Becca Talks and Tarot, Tarot's channel. That started off really well, but what was very noticeable within this book was that the deeper you started going into it, say after a week, it was relying heavily on sort of religion. Now, a lot of people use spirituality, well, spirituality in their reading. Of course, a lot of us do have spiritual connections one way or another, but each to their own. We all have different ways. Some of them are coming from a Christian standpoint, and that's what this book did. And many in the tarot community have moved away from the idealistic views of Christianity or Catholicism or any form of mainstream religion, because it A, hasn't suited, B, there might have been bad experiences, C, that it's just not fitting with your personal belief systems. And albeit this format is great, for me personally, and I know for a couple of other people that I've spoken to, it was swaying a little too much on studying yourself from a Christian point of view. I am not saying you cannot use tarot with Christianity or Judaism or whatever other religion, mainstream religion from around the world. Of course you can. It's all down to what you want as an individual, and nobody has the right to say yes you can or no you can't. But for me personally, it was a little bit too Christian-like, and it was detracting from tarot a little. Okay, now that is not to say that I do not think this is a good book. I do, otherwise I wouldn't be using this now. I wouldn't be recommending it or reviewing it, because this is actually something that my son is drawn to, which is great. That's for him, and not every book is going to be for everybody. Let's have a look at the blurb on the back, and then we'll have a look inside. Lorri's approach makes learning the tarot easy and natural, not because she oversimplifies them or uses a clever system. Instead, readers spend the first 2 weeks exploring their own beliefs, okay, strengths and weaknesses. This spiritual and reflective preparation creates a connection to and understanding of the cards that is more akin to recognizing than memorization. Lorri makes the tarot approachable and accessible as she brilliantly teases a lifetime of stories out of tarot with her insightful, gentle and poetic style, and she does. It is a beautiful book, but for me personally, there was just that little bit of a slant on too much religion, from a religious standpoint, and I'll look for an example to give to you in the book. Now you can connect to the divine while learning the tarot through this 90-day program that provides the tools to tap into your intuition. The tarot and stories told within the cards are magical and can apply to your personal everyday experiences. Very true. Through this plan, the image depicted on your favourite tarot deck can provide an overview of current stories taking place in your life right now, and, when combined with divine guidance, can provide transformation to a more fulfilling existence. The daily lessons are broken into 3 sections: getting to know yourself, day 1 through to day 14, getting to know your cards, day 15 through to day 75, and sharing the messages you receive, day 76 through to 90. Illustrated with Ciro Marchetti's deck, The Gilded Tarot, you will find trust in your own intuitive powers with an insightful ability to answer questions, consider ideas, and access divine knowledge. With simple instructions, work with activities, awaken your intuitive voice, and learn the tarot without memorization. And this book actually does do what it says in the blurb. It just comes from an angle that, is different. It's the connecting to the divine. Now, connecting to the divine is something different for everybody. And it's being able to take yourself from that mind space of following a particular mainstream view of the divine to your own personal divine. And that's not always easy when you're focusing on something like this and you just feel, am I being guided down this route that I'm not ready for yet, or it's not for me, or it sort of takes me out of what I currently believe in. Now, when I'm using the term connecting to the divine and things like that, I like to connect to spirit, and I like to connect to my spirit guides and be led. When we use the term divine, to me, and me personally, I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody else here, it's almost like connecting to God, connecting to whoever we see as being God. And it sort of then goes, well, but what if person A, B or C is atheist? And connecting to the divine is not necessarily something that would have them believing this method. So read the blurb. If you connect to the divine, brilliant book for you. Absolutely spot on. Okay. So, I like the dedication. For all of you who I've met, am meeting, or have yet to meet, thank you for being my teacher. So, it is a nice thick book. It introduces you, tell you why tarot. So that's a lovely read. Getting to know yourself. Now, there are tasks, balanced or burnt out, day 1. So you read through this and then you have a task. To start this process, take a moment and honestly answer the questions below. How many hours of sleep do you need each night to operate optimally? How many hours do you sleep on an average night? On a scale of 1 to 10, how rested do you feel today? 1 being not rested, 10 being completely. On the same scale, how rested do you feel on an ongoing basis? And what daily spiritual practices do you currently have in place? What physical exercise practice do you participate in? How often do you participate? Practice that you mentioned in question 6. How would you describe your digestion? Write down everything that you have to eat and drink in the past 3 days. So for the first 2 weeks, that's what this does. It looks at you, and it's not always an easy task because every single one of us has something about us that we don't like. So this really does get to the nitty-gritty of your personality, of your makeup, of your being, okay? And it's not a bad thing. It's self-reflection, self-study, and trying to adjust ways we see things, even looking at our health and well-being, and do we look after ourselves through diet, through exercise, etc., etc., because all that cleanses our system, gives a clear mind for us to be able to focus on studying the tarot. So then it goes on to so day 16 you've got the minor arcana, you've got colours and meanings, places to write things down, signs and symbols. So it really is beautiful, and you're sort of taking me out of the equation. So it's sort of, here we go. So taking me out of the equation is something that I was reading here. When listening and offering support to another person, how do you know the answers do not come from your ego? And that's what we have to be super, super careful of when we're reading tarot. How will you know when you are channeling the divine storyteller? In my experience, when I give a reading, it is clear to me when the divine storyteller steps in, because the speed at which I speak changes. My everyday life, my speaking pattern is more slow or methodical. I listen more than I speak. However, when I give a reading, my speaking pattern is quicker and more matter of fact. When I have a reading, a great deal of information tends to come through at once, which causes me to speak more quickly. It is as if I speak faster than the me inside can from thoughts. Your process may be the same, or it may be completely different. To begin the process of self-discovery, bring attention to the way that the connection to the divine works for you. Notice the difference between the voice of your own inner narrator and the voice of the divine storyteller, God. So this, as beautiful a book as it is, it talks of faith and hope, and we're talking about God here. It just took me out of my comfort zone. So that book wasn't for me, but it's not to say that it's not for you. I wouldn't recommend it, and I wouldn't be reviewing it if I didn't think it was a good book. Well, I do review books that aren't great, but this is a lovely, beautifully presented book, well thought out, well structured. It has tasks that can take you in and out of comfort zones, but it does come from an angle of spirituality, connecting with the divine and God. So just to be aware of that, if that is not your, does not float your boat, then this book might not necessarily be for you, but I do think it would appeal to a lot of people who do keep their spirituality going. Okay, it is lovely, and that my son will connect with this nicely, I believe. Right, moving swiftly on. Sorry, that's 20 minutes on 2 books. I really have overspoken on them. But this is Tarot 101. Okay, this is by Kim Huggens. Kim Huggens is one of my favourite creators and authors. I do have other books by Kim and decks of cards, and I really do find that she has a lovely approach. It comes from an angle that's not focusing going down one route, but is open to all. It's not sort of saying, well, this will suit you more because you believe in X, Y and Z. This does look at things from a very open approach. I'm a devil for marking my books, and I do know that won't go down well with a lot of people, and I apologise beforehand. So, an all-new approach to tarot. Would you like to gain professional level skills in tarot, bring more insights to card readings, and definitely have some fun? This complete course in tarot demystifies the art of card reading in an exciting new way. And all you need is a desire for wisdom and a boundless imagination. In 22 clear and practical lessons, Kim Huggens teaches you everything you need to know to become an expert card reader. Unlike other tarot guides, this book groups the cards according to shared themes, a much simpler and more intuitive way to learn. You can even use the tarot decks of your choice. Designed to be completed at your own pace, each lesson introduces an essential concept broken down into 4 topics and features helpful tips, key terms and enjoyable activities for hands-on learning. At the end of each lesson, the extra exercises that beginners as well as advanced card readers can explore to delve deeper into tarot. And I definitely agree there that this is not just for beginners but for advanced card readers, particularly those who have been reading for many years and have become in a way stuck in a rut and use one method or use what they're now overly comfortable with, and sort of gives you new ways to look at the tarot and see it with fresh eyes, especially exploring different decks, because I know it's only not very recently, but within the last 5 years I've become a collector of decks. I used one RWS deck before, and then I just decided I retired early and thought back to my hobbies, back to finding me, and I went mad collecting decks. So I love that books like this help you to look at different decks and look at tarot from so many angles. So in this book we look at the major and minor arcana and choosing a tarot deck, methods of card reading and interpretation, spreads for love, success and more, creating original spreads, reading for others, image symbolism and divinatory meanings, and developing intuition for insightful readings. And then it tells you all about Kim Huggens herself. If we look in here, you'll see that I am terrible for marking books. I do, particularly when I'm using it as a workbook. Okay, so this introduction, this content is quite deep. It starts with the introduction and what comes in the introduction, then the language of tarot, the major arcana introduction and progress cards, the major arcana feminine archetypes, reading tarot, the beginning, major arcana masculine archetypes, the major arcana virtues and vices. These are the topics, as it said in the blurb, that Kim works with by grouping the cards into themes, okay, into what areas that they sort of cross over and meet, which really does get you to look at cards quite differently. So all this is the contents, and we have our acknowledgements and a note about the structure of the course and getting started. It gives you an introduction to what is tarot. Now, what I liked here in exercise 1, and considering I've been looking at tarot for as many years as I have, you can see that there was quite a lot here that I found that was a great help at me looking at things. So, for instance, examine the statements about tarot and decide which you agree with most. Either rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. 1, I agree wholeheartedly. 10, I couldn't disagree more. Or place them into 3 groups, closest to my view, unsure, not applicable, and furthest from my view. So I rated them 1 to 10, and then I was making notes in the corner and highlighting loads of stuff. But notes that I make are things that I can refer back to and go, I remember that, you know. It's just the way that Kim approached it. Like, for instance, here, when you're looking at what applies to you, the statements that apply to you, there was one here: tarot is a fun way of passing time, entertaining friends and breaking the ice. I put a 10 there because that was furthest from my truth. Some people might think, well, yes, that I can identify with that, that's what I do. For me, no, I wouldn't use that, because tarot to me is personal. I read for other people, and it's not something that I think should be used flippantly, and I think it should be respected. So to me, I gave that a 10. And for instance, tarot is of intense interest to the occult student because it contains an outline of initiation. And I thought, well, yes, it does. So I gave that a 1. Tarot is a means of foretelling the future. So I gave that a 3. Well, yes, it is. It can do, but it's not the be-all and end-all, you know. It just is so full. Then, you know, you've got those activities before you even look at a deck. So again, you're looking at self-study, and some of those statements were making me think, well, oh, I've never thought of that before. Or, oh, I've thought of that before. Or, oh, yeah, I agree with that, you know. And I've put little notes here. So those that are numbered 1 to 4, what I agree with strongly. 5, I sort of agree with. And these are what I've put here. You know, my own little comments that go along with it. Then it asks you, why are you here? It's important before you begin studying something to understand why you wish to learn about it. Knowing your reasons for doing this course will allow you to be aware of which aspects of tarot appeal to you most. Will allow you to develop your own tarot reading style and methods of giving a reading, and will enable you to become a proactive creator of your own learning rather than a passive recipient of information from a book, which is very, very true, because you do take, when you get stuck on, not so stuck, when you get stuck into a task, you sort of say, right, okay, you can look at it and look at it, you make your notes, you highlight what it means to you, and then you say, do you know, I'm going to put that to one side, but then you find yourself going for different decks and trying out little different things, and how it differs, how it might differ with a Thoth deck to an RWS deck to a Marseille. And it really is amazing how activities carry out within books like this that you do carry out outside of the course of the book. So this is what I am going through a bit by bit at my own pace, because I'm going through so many books at once at the moment. Do I recommend this book? I do. I definitely recommend this for all tarot readers. I think it's brilliant. So now, a book came on the market that I thought, oh, I do want to have a look at that. And what I liked, it's by M.M.Meleen. It's by T.Susan, Chang and M.M.Meleen. I actually saw this book and I thought, that really appeals to me. Now, this is for people if you really are deciding to go in depth, get stuck down that tarot rabbit hole and get all the information that you can at a pace you can enjoy, and as deep as you want it to be. I was very lucky to be able to get a copy of this. That is actually... Let me find it. Where is it? It's actually a signed copy by M.M.Meleen. Yes, delighted, so I am. What is it? This is Tarot Deciphered, Decoding Esoteric Symbolism in Modern Tarot. It came with some lovely little cards, bookmarks, and it also had a sticker, and I thought the sticker looked really good on the front cover. So that's where I posted my sticker. So let's have a look at this. It's a heavy book, so I will be holding it on my knee because, as you can see, it is a tome. It's for... if complete beginners want to look at something like this, fair enough, go ahead. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for complete beginners because I think it could be a little off-putting because it's so in-depth, but it's almost like another tarot Bible. Okay, so let's have a look. Unlocking the symbols, meanings and the magic of the cards. Discover the esoteric roots underlying the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, the Thoth Tarot and contemporary decks that share their symbols. This illustrated card-by-card analysis reveals detailed insights drawn from the multi-layered traditions of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, the magical order that most strongly influenced modern tarot, helping you give better readings informed by the history of spiritual practice. And history is one of my up there #1 topics. I love history. For each card, you will discover how astrology, mythology, alchemy, the elements and Kabbalah contribute to the card's overall meaning. Authors T.Susan Chang and M.M.Meleen, co-hosts of the popular Fortune's Wheelhouse podcast, decipher the symbols and stories of tarot. Their carefully researched synthesis of esoteric ideas is designed to foster a deeper connection with the wisdom of the cards. And then it goes on to tell you a little bit about T.Susan Chang and M.M.Meleen. Okay, so I have the Rosetta Tarot and the Tabula Mundi that by him, but they're lovely decks. So let's have a look. We have a nice in-depth contents page again. That's one of the cards that came with, that I'm using as a bookmark. I haven't actually started this book yet because as you can see, I've just got so many more things that I'm doing. It starts off straight away. You have acknowledgements, a forward introduction, then we go into the major arcana. We start with the Fool on page 15. Okay, now the Fool starts on page 15 and goes right up to page 23 before we start with the Magician. So as you can see, just from the bulk alone, there's an awful lot. So let's head to page 15. Now I have read the foreword, and I have to say it's very, very interesting. What I like on page 7, when we start looking at the majors, we started looking at the astrology of the majors, and you're looking at the 4 elements of fire, water, air and earth, and it has the symbols there as well. It then touches on the planets, okay, and the 7 traditional planets of the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter and Saturn, and then the classical domiciles of the 7 planets. So for instance, you have, so like they say, the Sun in Leo, the Moon in Cancer, etc., Gemini and Mercury in Virgo nocturnal, Gemini diurnal, Libra diurnal, Venus, Taurus nocturnal. So it's really quite deep. You have to read all that. There's a lot of graphs and diagrams in the book, and there's one here of the astrological rulership diagram, and these are things that you can look here, read about here, and if necessary, look at the references they use and go off and discover things on your own too. So that's all when it's sort of giving you an introduction to the majors. You've got your writing there, the Hebrew writing, the 12 simple letters there. They correlate to the 12 zodiac signs. It's just amazing. There's a huge amount of information in here. So let's look at we're not going to look as deep into Fool, just to give you an idea as to what's there. So we start off with the Fool on page 15, and it's the spirit of the ether. The card number is 0. The element is air. The Hebrew letter is Aleph, and the Hebrew letter's meaning is mother letter, ox, value 1. Okay, so it's the mother letter of ox, and it's the value of 1. The path, it's on path 11 of Kether, or that's on the Kabbalah Tree of Life, if I'm not mistaken. The colour scales in the 4 worlds are bright yellow, sky blue, blue emerald green, emerald flecked gold. Themes, all or nothing, 0, beginnings, emanation, deity, creation, fertility, air, breath, silence, nonsense, folly and madness versus holy wisdom, innocence, ignorance and going forth. Then it starts with the astrology element. And, you know, what I like here, there's a card that's being used here of a grasshopper. And the Fool corresponds to the element of air. This image captures a grasshopper in aerial mid-flight, while also picking up on the traditional sun and hobo bag in the iconography, which is great. It's just, you know, it gives you examples. It goes on to mythology and alchemy. It talks about Aristotle. You have references at the bottom of the page. This is definitely a person who wants to really study the history and everything that combines together to create a really in-depth understanding of each card. This is a book that is not going to be gone through in a few weeks. This is something that you will be studying for a while. This goes in, you could actually spend a week or more on each card, you know. It's so in-depth. It's beautiful. You know, we've got the Thoth card here, the comparison with the Rider-Waite-Smith here. We're looking at the Fool on the Tree of Life on the Kabbalah Path 11. You're looking at Thoth symbolism, related cards to this. You know, advanced concepts for further exploration, which is really good, because at the end of having looked at the Fool through the eyes of M.M.Meleen and T.Susan Chang, they then very generously give further reading on just the Fool, you know. So it's really deep, and if you are someone who wants to take your time, have this in your library and use it to dip in and dip out of at your leisure. I think it's something, if you were studying and persevering and going on, you could wear yourself down if you were to do it in one, you know, depends on your study methods. For me, I like to have a lot of little different things on the go, but for something like this, I would have a separate book and make my own notes from this, that would help me in recalling some of the newer understandings, meanings, the symbolism that I hadn't thought of, you know, to look at, you know, myself. Something like this is a great guide. Something like this is a must for the tarot lover who really wants to go deep. Okay, so I really do recommend this absolutely for your seasoned tarot reader, predominantly, for both beginner, medium and seasoned reader, and definitely for your beginners. Okay, so there are 4 books that we've looked at today. Tarot, Unlocking the Powers of Tarot Spreads, and that's by Mary Silva. 90 Days to Learning the Tarot, No Memorization Required, by Lorri Gifford. Kim Huggens Tarot 101, Mastering the Art of Reading the Cards. And Tarot Deciphered, Decoding Esoteric Symbolism in Modern Tarot, by T.Susan Chang and M.M.Meleen. It's something that I really am looking forward to. So take care. Thank you for watching this. It's gone on a little bit longer than it should have done, and I just want to thank you for the support you give me watching my videos. It's truly appreciated. Take care, have a lovely day whatever you may be doing, and stay safe. Bye bye now.